Hi guys, it's Mishel, Deception Bytes, and today is Sunday, September 30th, and it's 10:18 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I did record a video earlier, and I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, I don't see a video from earlier, and that's correct. You don't, because I erased it. Why did I erase it? Well, for some odd reason, which I cannot explain, the video that I recorded is nowhere to be found. Instead, an odd video that makes no sense has been replicated about 10 times on my computer. Now, that doesn't make sense to me, but I have gotten used to strange things happening to me. And if you want strange things to happen to you, I don't know why you would, but if you do, start reporting on cue. I guarantee you strange things will begin to happen to you. Well, it was extra weird because I had stated that today is not a good day health-wise for me, but that I had decided to push through and do this video because I am of such a constitution that if something pushes back hard on me, I push back even harder, especially when it's something that I am convinced that I am to do. Like this, I believe that this is important. I believe it's important to get it out and disseminate it, especially since the mainstream media, who is paid to do such, refuses to do so. They refuse to report on the real news, and then so there's us that are having to fill in the void for them, and I feel that that's important. I do believe in God. I do believe we have an enemy of our soul, and I believe that if in fact it should happen to be that enemy, that I would be doing the right thing in pushing back as hard as I can against it. So I am going to record this again, and I am recording it again, and I am going to upload it. And if it happens again, I will do it a third time, and a fourth time, and a fifth time, because that's how I am. All right. Now, I know you're probably thinking, you sound angry. Yes, actually, I am angry. But I'm not certainly angry at any of you. I'm angry that there are things that I do not understand are happening to my computer that seem to be beyond my control and seem to be happening to my health as well. So anyway, I appreciate your prayers, and I really, really appreciate your prayers. Okay, let's get started on Q, because that's why you're here. I know that, and that is why we're all here. And besides, I just like to talk to you all and see your comments and encouragement, and also your little bits of news that adds to mine and gives us all a much better understanding of what's happening, because as I've said many times, and I don't have all the answers, and certainly by now you know that, and are able to fill in the gaps where gaps exist. All right, let's get started here. The first Q post is obviously from September 30th, and it says Red October. Well, that's familiar to us. We know that Red October is in part referring to the fact that we want people to vote red in October. We want there to be not just a red wave, but a red tsunami. And of course, we are anticipating that coming. But here we have red in the form of a cross. Now, Q has done that in the past when he was speaking about the Red Cross. So is this Red Cross October? Why would the Red Cross be needed? Is there something that's going to come out about the Red Cross? Because we know that they are eyeball deep in the mire, just as so many others are. We also know that Bono, I always want to call him Bono for some reason, I don't know why, Bono, has a nonprofit organization called RED that is also part of the big picture, although we don't really know to what extent, because I don't think there's been a lot of work done on that. There has been some, but not a lot. So here we have the Red October, red in a cross, and I think that this has several meanings. Q is quite adept at doing that, and very successfully is able to communicate several meanings within one short sentence, as he has done here. So is Red October going to be red because of bloodshed? I hope not. I hope that the red that he is referring to is simply the red tsunami that is coming, most certainly. But I do believe that there will be riots. I have spoken about that in the past, and I've spoken about the need to be ready. Now, in the last video, I said that many people had commented that they don't have money to spare. You know, you may be on disability, you may be only on Social Security, you may have a very, very limited income, and that's understandable that you would be saying, look, I can't afford to prepare, I can't afford to, you know, get a bug out bag and all that together. Well, maybe I need to do a video, because I have done a lot of research over the past number of years and on natural health and so forth, and there are some items that you can put in a first aid bag and so forth that are very, very inexpensive. You know, really it amounts to pennies per use, and that you can use for such a purpose. If you know, the hot brown stuff hits the rotating mechanical blade, then you would be ready. Also, I wanted to note that I did teach in the Central American rainforest, the Mosquito Coast, and at that time there was no running water, no electricity, very, very primitive, and where I was especially very primitive, and I lived on beans and rice, and I lived for quite a while on just beans and rice, and when I got out of the jungle, I had not gained or lost a pound. I was the exact same weight. So I was living on beans and rice, which is a complete protein, and you can live on that for a very long time. You just add some whatever root vegetables with it or whatever you want, you can add with it. And even though it may not be the tastiest, although I like it, I like red beans and rice, but you know, you can get a pound of bean, like, you know, a great big thing of beans and a big thing of rice, and as long as you keep it dry and stored somewhere, you're good to go. That stuff will keep for a very long time, and it will provide you enough nutrition to live, because it is a complete protein. So there you go. That is probably the cheapest food preparation that you can do, and just add to it a couple tins of, you know, tuna, peanut butter, cheap things that you can, you know, have protein, because protein is extremely important to keep your strength up. And so anyway, if you wish for me to do a video on really low cost preparedness, I will be more than happy to. But let's go on with what we have in front of us now. So after Red October, Q says Justice K confirmation. Now that's Justice Kavanaugh, obviously. So he is going to be confirmed in October. And also the declassification. Well, the declassification of what? Well, that would be the 20 pages in the Carter Page FISA document, the one that was originally used to get the wiretap. And that is going to, when that is declassified, that's going to show everyone who, you know, the bad actors are, I guess, so to speak, and especially Mr. Rosenstein. And Q says here, goodbye, Mr. Rosenstein, payment in full. So I would suspect that Q is saying that Mr. Rosenstein can look forward to being paid in full for his treasonous activities in October. At least that's how I read that. It is in bold letters. It's in kill bracket. And it is saying payment in full. Well, we know that his treasonous activities are going to come and bite him in that rounded part of his hinder, his anterior, posterior, whatever. We know that it's going to come and bite him, and we know that for a fact because Q has told us so. So then we have this link here, which we're going to go out to, and I think I already have it pulled up, and no, I don't. So let's get out of here. Oh crap. All right. Let me see here. Dang it. Hang on. I'm a little discombobulated today. All right, now behind the scenes of Jeff Flake's decision to call an FBI probe into Kavanaugh's allegations. We're not going to listen to this because it drones on for 15 minutes. And I certainly don't want to listen to it drone on for 15 minutes, nor do I want to listen to me drone on for 15 minutes, but I'm going to read the pertinent parts. All right. Arizona Republican Senator Jeff Flake surprised his colleagues on both sides of the aisle when he called for a delay in the Senate floor vote on Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation after releasing a statement earlier that morning saying that he would vote to confirm Kavanaugh. Flake, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, voted to advance Kavanaugh's nomination for consideration by the full Senate on Friday, but said that he would not approve a motion to bring the nomination forward without an FBI investigation into allegations of sexual misconduct by Kavanaugh. Flake was joined by Republican Lisa Murkowski, and of course we remember that name because we remember the beast Feinstein, cornering her and accosting her verbally, and probably, no doubt, over her vote for or against Kavanaugh. Anyway, so Flake was joined by Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski and Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, both moderates, in calling for a week-long investigation. President Trump instructed the FBI to open an investigation into allegations against Kavanaugh on Friday. But remember that it was either Q or Trump, now I can't remember which it was, said that this was going to end up being a blessing in disguise. So I am going with that interpretation. Anyway, Flake's decision came after he spoke to senators of both parties and withstood pressure from some Republicans not to take such a step. As he considered his course of action, Flake also had a conversation with Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who is in charge of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation, and at the top of his mind was the previous day's testimony from Kavanaugh and Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, who had accused Kavanaugh of sexual assault when they were both teenagers. Keep in mind that this sexual assault, per se, was by two teenagers that were stumbling drunk, and there was no skin contact. There was no skin-to-skin contact. She was fully clothed with a bathing suit under her clothes, and so was Kavanaugh, and that's a very big if, he was even in the room, and I don't believe he was. I think that Ford is having an MK Ultra memory that was placed in there. I don't think actually anyone assaulted her. That is just me. I am not somebody that would just, with no evidence, disregard the testimony of a woman, but there is plenty of evidence now that Christine Blasey Ford is not who she says she is, and is deeply tied to the CIA and their MK Ultra program. So no, I do not believe her. I will never believe her. But that is me, and I hope that you are of the same mind. But of course, we all can think for ourselves. Flake told reporters later in the day that while he had arrived at a decision about whether to support Kavanaugh, he was concerned about the process. I bet he was. Let me just say from the outset, Judge Kavanaugh, I agreed to support him before all this came out. I wanted to support him. I'm a conservative. He's a conservative judge, but I want a process we can be proud of. Really, is that what this is? A process we can be proud of? Well, I am of the persuasion that it is not a process that we can be proud of, and this is probably one of America's darkest days. At least it was the day that she testified, because it was a charade. Flake said, I think this country needs to be behind it, and we need a more bipartisan process, and that's why this is important. And I would say to Senator Flake that this is in no way a bipartisan process and never will be. Before the vote, Flake confronted by protesters, and of course we know that that's what the real issue really is, because Flake, caved, and he is very well named. After Flake, and I would just like to reiterate that his name is Flake, voted Friday morning. And, well, Flake, it doesn't have a whole lot of constitution to hold itself together. It just kind of flakes away, kind of like a croissant. You eat those things. I never get those things in a drive-through because they're all over the car. They just peel off everywhere. They just flake. And that's what we have with Mr. Flake here. Flake, Mr. Croissant himself voted Friday morning to schedule, except they're buttery, and I bet you that Flake isn't buttery. But anyway, voted Friday morning to schedule the vote to advance Kavanaugh's nomination for that afternoon to protesters. I don't know why I always want to call them protesters. They're not protesters. My gosh, they're protesters. Confronted. It doesn't even sound, reasonable. Protesters. That sounds kind of wishy-washy, but protesters, that has a little bit of oomph to it, confronted him at a Senate elevator, holding the doors open to block him from leaving. One of the protesters spoke emotionally about her own experience with sexual assault, while Flake looked down, ashen-faced. Now, why somebody would even want to compare their own sexual assault with what happened to Christine Blasey Ford is beyond me, because I believe that what I experienced was a real sexual assault, and I have a hard time. I just have a hard time with that. I don't know why any woman that has actually, in reality, experienced sexual assault would want to, in any way, connect themselves with Christine Blasey Ford, but that's just me. I was sexually assaulted and nobody believed me, maybe because it didn't happen, or who knows. I didn't tell anyone, and you're telling all women that they don't matter, that they should just stay quiet, because if you tell what happened to them, you're going to ignore them, the protester said. Now that's just plain ridiculous, and we know that that person was paid by George Soros, so what they say has absolutely no bearing on anything whatsoever, because they have disqualified themselves, probably even from the human race. Perhaps I'm just being ridiculous, but I don't care. It just ticks me off. Because, something, I don't know when sexual assault became weaponized, because that's what these women are doing. They're using it as a weapon to pull down the men that they don't like, and that is wrong. It's absolutely categorically wrong. I'm not one of those women who is at war with men. I happen to like men. I'm glad for the differences between us, and I appreciate, for the most part, yes, there are some bad men in the world. Yes, there are some bad women in the world. What difference does it make? It matters nothing what a person's sex is, but then, you have people pointing, well, they're a white male, so, like as if being a white male automatically puts you in the category of being the enemy. Well, you're not. So I'm just here to tell you that not all women are at war with men. I'm one of them. So let's continue here. Conversations with other senators. Several senators on the committee spoke before the vote, including Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, a close friend of Flake's in the Senate. The two are the same age, born just a few months apart, and also both serve on the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations and the Subcommittee on Africa and Global Health Policy. The two have spent significant time in Africa and bonded over those experiences and have traveled together. Coons told CBS News' Nancy Cordes that he was surprised and disappointed when he learned Flake had released a statement saying he would vote to confirm Kavanaugh unleashing an expletive in front of reporters when a reporter showed him the headline on a phone. Coons then reworked his planned speech to the committee, in part to appeal to Republicans like Flake, who were on the fence about Kavanaugh's confirmation. In a measured speech to his colleagues on the committee, Coons condemned the rank partisanship that had infected Kavanaugh's confirmation process and quoted his Senate predecessor and the former Judiciary Committee chairman, former Vice President Joe Biden. I want to share one thing he said to me when I began my service here, which was, it is always appropriate to question another senator's policies. It is always appropriate to question another senator's priorities, but it is never appropriate to question another senator's motives, Coons said. And there has been far too much of that happening in this process in a way that will frankly make it very difficult for us to take off our partisan jerseys and at some point get back to the important work of finding solutions to the real challenges facing this country. I would agree with that statement. I don't know if we'll ever be able to take off our partisan jerseys and be able to get down to the real challenges facing this country because of all this nonsense. So I don't know where all this is going to end, and quite frankly, neither do you. But sorry, my screen is going dark there. I don't know if you can see that on your end, but my cord fell out of the electrical socket. So anyway, so I think that we are quite aware that, let's go down further here. In his addition to his Senate friend, Flake told reporters of a few of his personal friends who had recently admitted to him that they too were victims of sexual assault. Unlike Christine Blasey Ford, who the heck knows what happened to her, but whatever happened to her was MK Ultra. I am quite convinced of that. Perhaps she was assaulted at some point in her life by someone, but it was not Brett Kavanaugh. Any idiot can see that. Anyone with more than 2 neurons to rub together, anyone with an IQ that is slightly higher than a soap dish could see that. I knew that people needed to be more comfortable moving ahead, and most of all, the country needs to feel better about this. Oh, well, isn't that what it's all about? That we can all feel better about this. Yes, let's just all hold hands and sing Kumbaya while we destroy a senator's life. Why don't we just all do that? Not a senator, but a judge. While we destroy Judge Kavanaugh's life, maybe we can just all feel better about it by holding hands and singing Kumbaya. With this in mind, with his mind made up and the assurances from the Democrats and the undecided senators to politically back this deal, Senator Flake, and I did say Flake, walked into the hearing room, whispered in Chairman Grassley's ear as he passed, and sat down in his chair where he announced the nomination shakeup. Well, we're all proud of you there, Jeff Flake, for doing exactly what your last name said you'd do. Flaking. Flake said the investigation period also soothed worries from both Murkowski and Senator Susan Collins. Oh, I bet it did. Because they were probably, they've probably got some skeletons in their own closet. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have kowtowed to Feinstein. But that's just my opinion. Of course, Flake said that he had not discussed his decision with the president. He also assured reporters that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was not angry with his decision. Everyone agrees this is how to move forward, Flake said, adding that McConnell has agreed not to bring forward a motion to vote on Kavanaugh's confirmation until an FBI report has been filed. And I hope as part of that FBI report that they will also look into the background of Blasey Ford and the Democrats, notably Dianne Feinstein. But Flake, who has often been a vocal opponent of Mr. Trump, is set to retire at the end of the year. Now, what, if you can recall, and I know you can, what did Q say about all these people retiring? Flake, he was probably very easily blackmailed because he probably has a few skeletons in his own closet, and they are probably just as flaky as he is. All right, now let's go back to Q. All right, so Flake's decision came after he spoke to senators of both parties and withstood pressure from some Republicans not to take such a step. As he considered his course of action, Flake also had a conversation with Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Oh, and I am quite certain that Attorney General Rod Rosenstein gave you delightful advice, Mr. Flake, who is in charge of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. Well, naturally he is. Who else would draw an investigation on and on and on and on and on with no evidence, costing the American taxpayers millions and millions of dollars that could be being used on education and infrastructure for our country. But no, we continue an investigation that has produced absolutely, positively zero evidence of collusion. Define treason. the crime of betraying one's country, especially by attempting to kill the sovereign or overthrow the government. Define subversion. The act of subverting the state, of being subverted, especially a systematic attempt to overthrow or undermine a government, a political system, by persons working secretly from within. Think line of questions regarding Senator Graham and Justice Kavanaugh regarding enemy combatants. Now, that is the video that I couldn't get to play. Someone has been wonderful enough to send me a link to that, which I don't have at my disposal right now, but will get. And that is a line of questioning where he was talking about the difference between criminal law and military law and civil law, etc. And his line of questioning went something like this. If you are an American, do you retain your constitutional rights if you are outside of America? Let's say you are an American, but you are in Britain. Do you retain your constitutional rights? Well, the answer is yes. Of course, you retain your constitutional rights under the government of the United States and under the Constitution. Well, what happens if you are in Afghanistan or somewhere else, or Syria? What do you retain your constitutional rights as an American? Well, yes, you do. Unless, and this is a big unless you are an enemy combatant, unless you are working secretly within to pull down a political system, and then your constitutional rights, bye-bye, you don't have any. So if you are someone working from the inside to pull down the government, whether you're in Syria, whether you're in Afghanistan, whether you're in Canada, whether you're wherever, whether you're lying on a beach in the Caribbean, you do not have that right under the Constitution. You are an enemy combatant, and you will be treated by such under military law. So he was making it very plain at that hearing that those of people that were trying to subvert the state would be dealt with by military law. And that's good news to all of us. Otherwise, we don't have a chance. We don't have a chance. There are so many people trying to take down this country from the inside. It is unbelievable. Anyway, Q goes on and gives us a number, 1-800-273-8255. Now, at first I thought this was the number to the White House, and I was quite convinced, but I thought I'd better check before I said so. And it is not the number to the White House. It is actually the number to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. So what is Q saying? He is possibly saying that some of these people that have been doing such and engaged in such activity might want to call that hotline knowing what is coming to them. All right, and he said operators are standing by Q. Now, I don't think Q in any way was making light of suicide. I don't think that at all. I think it's a very serious it's a serious problem, and I'm glad that we do have a national hotline, and that there are people that deal with that, and that there is someone to call if you are feeling that way, because it can happen to anyone at any time that they are feeling suicidal. But I think here Q obviously is referring to people like Rod Rosenstein, who has much to fear from the military justice system and may possibly want to call the suicide hotline if he is feeling like he may want to cease to exist. And who knows, some of these people may choose to commit suicide, not be murder. I'm talking about, full suicide. They may choose that over facing what they're facing. I don't know, and that's a very serious decision. I wouldn't want anyone to take their own lives. I think that that's horrible, and it bothers me that anyone would ever get to the point where they would despair of their own life. But anyway, we're going to move on. I'm going to move on to the next and the last Q post from today. Now, as I said, there may be more Q posts out there by now. I don't know, but this will bring us up to date. as of an hour ago anyway. And if there are more, I will do what I can to bring those to you, assuming that this video is not going to do something wonky and replicate itself and do strange things. We'll see. Anyway, the last Q post is this. It says, Red October, stay tuned and watch. Q plus. So this is from the whole Q team, whereas this was from Q. Now, basically, this is just, Red October. Okay, tomorrow we wake up, it's going to be the 1st of October. Actually, in less than an hour and 10 minutes, an hour and 13 minutes, it's going to be October. Hard to believe for me because I don't know where the summer went. But NQ is just saying, stay tuned and watched. It's going to be a very active October. I really believe that. There's going to be a lot that's happening, and we need to stay tuned, watch. We need to be informed. We need to be disseminating as much information as we can to those that have not woken up, or those that are just they have just maybe opened their eyes and still a little bit sleepy and still have a little bit of sleep in their eyes and still not knowing exactly what is going on. And we need to be kind to those people, because you know what? At one time, we didn't believe any of this either. So there you go. Now, that is it for this video. I thank you guys so much. Sorry that I started this out a little bit in an angry mode, but I tell you, you start doing Q videos and strange stuff. I'm not joking. It starts to happen to your computer. This is it's either my 3rd or 4th computer since I started doing Q posts, because strange things happen to my computers. And I've been using computers since way back, when they first came out, when they were like, huge mainframes. So it's not that I don't know what I'm doing. So anyway, I will stop talking now, and I will let you guys get on with your evening. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, a good sleep, that you stay safe and stay well, and I will talk to you guys real soon. Thank you so much. I appreciate, again, all your prayers and your encouragement. If you want to subscribe, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to be notified of any new videos. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.